do you think it's possible, in your worldview, to see a cohesive community of women emerge from our current paradigm?
Oh, certainly. It's definitely possible. Most things are possible. The question is, are black women collectively and individually willing to put whatever grievances they have, whatever differences they have, personal, religious, whatever insecurities they have, to the side in order to come together? And relationships play a role in this as well. Because there's not enough men to go around, you often find sisters competing for attention from the same man. And I guess we'll talk about that later, but polygamy plays a role in it too, because there's this competition amongst black women for men. So when a sister, particularly a sister who's less than 40, and particularly sisters who's less than 30, you know, when they see another sister, you know, one of the first things that pops into their mind, one of the first thoughts that the unconscious pushes into their consciousness is, can this woman, okay, take my man from me? If I allow this woman around my man, will she take him? Will my man be more interested in her than he is in me? So a lot of women are preventing themselves from finding fulfilling social relationships with other black women because they're afraid that if they allow this black woman into their immediate circle, she may be able to take their man from them. And on an unconscious level, I don't think black women, especially the younger ones, are conscious enough about how their need to protect their nest, their need to protect their home, the need to protect their relationship from outside infiltration from another woman plays into the distance that we see among sisters. And then you also have ego. Just like one of the biggest things that keep black men from each other is ego, and it's also a big issue amongst black women. You see sisters competing, who's the most attractive physically, who's the most successful educationally, who's the most progressive economically. So women are constantly sizing themselves up next to other women. So when they come amongst women, they automatically say, who makes the most money? Who looks the best? Okay, who has the best husband? So it's this intense competition that breeds individualism. And because humans are fundamentally social creatures, it's kind of difficult to lead a happy life when you're only spending it with yourself.
And what are the ramifications, the long-term ramifications of us continuing to be this way?
Because women are the basis of any society, they're the basis of any civilization. When they're not happy and healthy, and when their needs are not being met, then no other member of that community or civilization is happy and healthy, and their needs definitely are not going to be met. For example, take a single black woman, okay, who was either neglected by her father, or kept from her father by her mother, because there's a lot of that going on today where the fathers are not volunteering to be out of the children's life, but the mothers, because of their own psychological issues with that male, are selfishly keeping the father out of the child's life. But when that woman has unfulfilled psychological needs from her own childhood, when she has unfulfilled social needs, such as an adequate social support system, she's not emotionally available to her children. So her neglect ultimately leads to her neglecting her own children. Children, and the research shows this, children who live in homes, single parent or two parent, it doesn't matter. Okay, children who live in homes where the parents have psychological issues are often emotionally neglected because the parents have to spend so much of their free time dealing with their own issues that they don't have time to deal with their children. If a woman has an unaddressed psychological problem and the issue is not something that her husband can really help her with, he can support her, but to really help her with, then guess what? His needs are also not going to be met either, and that can even set up a potential situation where he starts entertaining thoughts of going outside the marriage as well. When the women hurt, the whole community hurt, which is why, as a community, we as Africans over here in the West and anywhere we are in the world have to make sure we're taking care of the emotional needs of our sisters. I can tell you, A lot of black women are straight up and down traumatized. Some of them are emotionally traumatized. Some of them are sexually traumatized. They are traumatized. Some of them are emotionally traumatized. Some of them are sexually traumatized. They are traumatized. And it's amazing at the degree of escapism and denial that you see on part of the entire black community, but on themselves from these type of issues. A lot of women don't like to admit the pain or the vulnerability because we have, this whole mythos of the strong black women, this whole conceptualization of a strong black woman, which is true. Historically, we have had a lot of strong black women, but we have lost a lot of our spiritual fiber. The black woman of 2011 is not the same black woman of 1811. Okay, she's not the Fannie Lou Hamer. She's not the Harriet Tubman. She potentially can be. It is within her genes and DNA to manifest, okay, that goddess nature. Okay, but she has to do a lot of internal cleansing in order to get to that point. And black women collectively have to do a lot of collective cleansing to get to that point. So many of our problems in the community are the result of a lack of sisterhood. Take domestic violence. One of the biggest reasons black women choose to stay and suffer in silence is because they don't know of a sister whom they can trust, whom they can go to at a time of need, who will look out for them, support them, not be concerned about her trying to elope with her husband, and also not violate her confidentiality by running her big mouth to her husband or boyfriend or paramour or to her family, who could ultimately let the paramour know where she's living. I know of cases myself where sisters have went to other sisters for shelter, and the sister who they went to, okay, intentionally or unintentionally, ran her mouth, betrayed the woman's confidentiality, okay, to the social circle, the information as to whom she was staying with, got back to the abusive brother, and he ended up finding her on the street and tried to whip the living hell out of that woman. So again, these are all issues of sisterhood. A sister has to be able to trust another sister. And I'm going to tell you something. Black women have to learn how to shut their mouths. They talk too much. There's things that I know about black women that I shouldn't know. Now, of course, being a therapist, I keep those things in confidence because women may come to me to divulge certain things, to get professional opinions, and that's okay because of my profession, okay? But I'd be hard-pressed to believe that they're not also sharing this information with other people who should not be getting it. To make a long story short, a lot of women are afraid to turn to their sisters because they are afraid that their confidentiality will be betrayed. Older sisters have to mentor younger sisters. Queen mothers who are 60 and 70 have to mentor the queens who are in their 40s and 50s. And the queens who are in their 40s and 50s have to mentor the sisters who are in their 20s and 30s. And the sisters who are in their 20s and 30s have to mentor our young sisters and our teenagers. The reason why it's so difficult to do this is because we're not patient enough to work through the resistance. For example, if you go up to a particular young sister who's been raised a particular way, and as a result of that, she has a certain defensive aura about her, when you go to engage her, she's likely to disrespect you, okay, because in her life, many of the women who were in it really didn't care too much about her, okay. If they did, the way she sees it, she would have had a better life, may have not gotten pregnant at the age of 14 or 15, may have not been sexually abused, because we do know that 1 out of every 4 black girls will get sexually abused in her life. So you have to work through the resistance. In psychology, we call it countertransference. That's when the patient comes off to you a certain way. Okay, they are actually objectifying you as the abuser, and you react to that objectification. You have to be conscious of your own emotional reaction to that person. So black women have to gain a control over their emotionalism, because that emotionalism is blocking them from being able to engage younger sisters. Yes, they're going to come off a little disrespectful. Yes, they're going to try to push you away. You know why? Because they don't want to be hurt again. They're pushing you away to test how much you really care. And if you walk away as soon as they disrespect you, they know you didn't care to begin with. It's the same thing that I get from black males. But because I know that resistance, that disrespect, which is nothing but a form of resistance, is being done to test my commitment to them, I have to stay with the young man and work with them. And if I stick to it, It may be a couple weeks, it may be a couple months. You never know how long. But sooner or later, the wall will drop as he comes to understand that I'm doing this because I care. But a lot of black women just don't care about other black women. And the reason they don't is because of the pain that they suffer from black women in their lives. I deal a lot with teenage girls who are, how I want to say this, who have an unhealthy attachment to their mothers and an unhealthy attachment to their grandmothers for whatever reason, neglect, favoritism, being mistreated because they were the only girl in a house full of boys, whatever the issue was. And because of that, they objectify every other black woman. You know, they symbolize them to be the woman who hurt them. So there's a lot of pain amongst black women, but someone has to be willing to be the bigger person in this whole thing and say, look, I know you hurt, I hurt, you know, but I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay here because I am here for you because I love you. And one of the biggest reasons why a lot of younger sisters are turned off from older sisters is because older sisters come at them with religion. They don't need religion. They need healing. The problem is religion has become the only strategy of connection in our community. So when someone wants to engage someone, you know, are you Muslim? Have you taken your shahada? Have you been baptized? That is irrelevant. Why is it irrelevant? Because I know a lot of people who are totally immersed in the church, totally immersed in the mosque, and they are still depressed. They are still anxious because religion doesn't replace psychopathology. It becomes a form of escapism. It becomes an opiate for the person's pain, a cover, but not a treatment.